funds going into the general fund. What are you going to do to both correct this and ensure fiscal integrity in the future?
Well, if it's showing that it's going somewhere that's not, that is something we need to address. I'll be honest, that's something I'm not aware of. So whoever got that question, I don't want to wait till a position to get that fixed. So I want them to know that now. So whatever that issue is, I'll just say, I don't want to wait till be mayor to fix that. Can you send me the information and we can look further into it and make sure that everybody has the correct information?
Thank you. Yeah, I do remember when this issue came up, maybe 2 years ago, and efforts were made to try to explain that the funds go into our general fund, the general fund then funds road work. And as I observed the communications going on, maybe we didn't communicate well enough, okay? So this is going to be a peek into my leadership style. Let's get all the interested parties from the township, from the town, certainly our accounting department, around the table. Let's explain it. You can follow the money, and we'll show you that it's not being misused, mishandled, hidden, used for other purposes. But I think that kind of open transparency, a leader who listens, is going to be necessary to get to the bottom of that concern.
Next question. What steps would you take to guarantee future water supply to the town normal?
Future water supply, this one came from my table actually, and it's a very, very good one. We have very good water supply here. Our water supply comes from the Muhammad Aquifer. From our director, he says that the future supply of that is indefinite, as indefinite as the water supply can be. So, good news on that. However, we do know from our folks at Bidward, Wilmington Normal Water Reclamation District, that we have more and more and more chemicals, bad things flowing into our water that then need to be treated. Those are called PFAS, P-F-A''S. Don't ask me what it stands for. It's like poly something carbonate, fluoride, whatever. This is a real issue, and if you're doing inside baseball, like probably a lot of folks in this room are, and watching council meetings, you will know that I ask this question at every turn. You just heard our capital improvement plan presented to us, and I asked the water department director, how are we doing on PFAS? That is a top issue for me, and we've got to stay ahead of it, because it's big.
If I understood, heard the question, can you repeat it one more time?
Sure. What steps would you take to guarantee future water supply to the town normal?
Okay, because I know it kind of pivoted for the response. I want to make sure I answer the question, which was kind of already answered as far as our water supply and where we stand. But to a degree, I know there are some concerns about running out of water. What will happen as we continue to go and expand? And what I mean by that is chemicals are already increasing in price. We have some other issues going on. So I don't want to come across with Ms. Lorenz because she's covered quite a few things. But with that, I think the question you want to ask about water is not about the run out, or what is it going to cost to keep us going. And I think when it comes to that, there's some uncertainty, and what I mean by that is we're trying to figure out how to balance that. It should be free. It's just not at a place where we are, because we do make sure your water's clean when it comes into your home. People who've had issues with brown water and things of that nature. So I think I like the question of because people are running out. We're actually in a good place. Most of the Midwest is. I think the question then becomes how we continue to service it. What's the cost going to be to our residents and the long-term impacts of that? And so I think we need to definitely be mindful as we move forward when it comes to those things, and making sure that we can continue to provide good water to our residents.
Next question, we'll start with Kimberly. Would tiny house ordinances solve the city's housing troubles?
That's a good question. I think that tiny house is definitely an option. I think they are something right now that is very popular. And why? Because a lot of people are downsizing. Some people don't want bigger homes, as we've seen in the past. I think it's something we could be open, or should be open to, not just could, should be open to. And so I don't think it will answer all the questions to housing. If I'm understanding that question correctly, it's not gonna answer all the issues with housing. There's a lot of pieces to the housing crisis. However, can it help? Absolutely. Right now, when we're talking about different levels of housing being affordable and being available and attainable and diverse, that is included in that. So tiny homes could be a help, but it's not a concession.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the tiny houses are otherwise known as ADUs, accessory dwelling units. That could be brought to bear with changing the ordinance or updating the ordinances in both Bloomington and Norway. And it is something that we talk about. I think the broader picture is that we need to look at all of our land use ordinances when it comes to residential development and find ways to, as I like to say, lead and get out of the way. Lead by inspiring developers, both near and maybe not so near, to come to Bloomington Normal to invest in this community. We are woefully behind on keeping up with the workforce housing. We have 45% of the workforce from our major employers, Meridian and Ferrero, leaving this community to go live somewhere else. That's a leakage that I'm just not satisfied with. 45% of people leaving. That's not dining here, that's not grocery shopping here. Maybe they're filling up with gas. Well, we've really got to lead and get out of the way. What do I mean by get out of the way? We've got to streamline fees and processes and all the things that makes life difficult for developers. We've got to lead and get out of the way. If ADUs, accessory dwelling units, is part of it, then we need to look at that. The last thing I'll say about tiny homes is a plug for what we need to do for the homeless. We need more shelter space. Shelter is not your forever home, but we have 2 shelters in this community, roughly 50 persons per shelter. We've got about 50 people out in tents right now. The 21st century solution for shelter is not congregated shelter. We've got outdated shelters, but it's what we've got. So we need to, and the shelters in this community are ready to put private funds forward. We need a tiny home type shelter village that would be non-congregate shelter facilities for the people in this community. And there's one thing, speaking to my social compassionate side, we've got to take care of our fellow humans. I don't care what political persuasion you might be part of. We are all God's people, and we've got to take care of them.
Next question. Should we be or can we be a stronger mirror to get rid of the city manager to save taxpayers money?
Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Strong mayor, okay. You know, to be honest, yes, there's always a possibility, but that would change the complexion of the races and the people that step forward to the position. Because the mayor, by design in this community, is part-time. So Ms. Harris and I both have daytime jobs, okay? And that's the way we have operated in Normal for, I think, at least 50 years. I think Bloomington is similar. And so the plus side of a part-time mayor and city manager form of government is to allow people in the community like ourselves who have day jobs and to be able to step forward in some capacity to help maybe first in commission work, maybe eventually on council, and then taking the big step for mayor. So I think to change to strong mayor would then require it to be a full-time job, and I think you would just get an altogether different set of candidates. So consider that, plus or minus.
The last thing I'll say about that is that it has a lot of benefits from what I've seen, and this is all I know, is the city manager form of government, in the sense that, you know, the mayor and the city manager should work very closely together, but we should also complement each other, balance each other out, okay? So they can be the subject matter experts, but then we, I believe, the role of the mayor is to be that complementary set of skills that, by and large, is going to be more external facing. Let me go out and sell the heck out of this community, and let me go arm in arm with the mayor of Bloomington and say, look at Central Illinois, come to our community. Rivians come here, Ferreros come here. We're the #1 rated college town, small college town, something to that effect. I might not have that totally right, but we're up there on a list of good college towns, great college towns. We are going to be, I will be, with the Bloomington mayor, the best ambassador for this community that I could possibly be. And then the city manager and his or her team is running the trains on time. And that's what we need them for.
So, I'm gonna just give you as a purist, as a political science major, really it does, the ideology behind strong mayor sounds good, but in reality, even for the communities that have one, there is a city manager. Now, they might not all call it a city manager, but they still have one. All you're doing is actually paying the mayor more, and they work a full-time position. And so I'm not supportive of that, because it gives more voices at the table, when you have a council city manager form of government versus a strong mayor. A strong mayor is literally that. The one person who makes all the decisions, they finalize the budget alone, they make all the decisions. And then to me, you kind of lose the voice, because really the council members kind of have a voice, but really don't. So when you ask your council member for their help or to support something you want, you just lost it when you go to strong mayor. Again, that's not something I would support. If we want to cut costs, there's probably other ways to find it, but getting rid of a city manager is a great balance, and it kind of helps with the day-to-day that's going on, and have somebody who can have a more personal contact. Because even with a strong mayor, they don't have that close contact to make sure that the day-to-day is fully being run.
All right, maybe 2 more questions here. First one's going to be, and you get 30 seconds on this. What are your thoughts on the Veterans Parkway discussions regarding making it more pedestrian friendly with bike lanes, bus stops, etc.?
I know most of you in this room are going to probably yell at me, throw something at me, or tell me to get out after this. I support it. I support it as it continues to be a bustling area. Now, there has to be work done. You can't just overnight, so I don't want anybody to do like overnight, we're gonna have bike lanes and pedestrian. I'm a person, if we're gonna do it right. We have to make sure that things are done in the right way. And it may not look the way you think it is. I've been to communities where what they have done is added from the side, more pedestrian spacing, and have done like overpass, underpass, stuff to connect when you have to go across. There's ways to do it. I'm sure as a community, because we are a very intelligent community, we've done a lot of things well, I won't say perfect, but well. And we will do it right. But I think there's a benefit to it as we continue to move forward. And as we see that generations that are coming don't want cars. I understand those of us who have been in these car generations and we love our cars, we have to also be prepared for the future. And we don't want it to be antiquated to them when it comes to that time. So I think we are having the right conversations at the right time.
All right, so this study is coming from I think probably some grant funding from the Clinton County Regional Planning Commission. It is their job to do these sorts of research studies. So when I saw that one come out, I kind of laughed a little bit, because like, all right, it's, how many miles are already there? So, you can't change them like in Sarasota overnight. But I do think there is some benefit in studying it, seeing what we can do, what maybe low-hanging fruit can be done to mitigate some of our just issues that we see in terms of, increased car accidents, fatalities. It is a barrier for people to cross between the east and west side. That has some economic impact for some folks. So I applaud the Plain County Regional Planning Commission for studying it. I don't know that this is something that I'm going to get really jazzed up about because it's going to be a generational project. And so maybe early on you can do some low-hanging fruit things, but this is a good step to take for visioning and correcting things where we can.
All right, last question. And this election is a consolidated election, which means there's no R's or D's behind people's names. So this is the reason we're doing this forum, to get people's ideas and thoughts out. And I try to not have gotcha questions, and these questions to be fair to everybody. But there is a question here, and it says, as Democrats have continued to be in the supermajority for decades in Illinois recently, JD said that there is a massive budget deficit. How do you and will you respond to the state deficit with our budgets?
Call Dan ready.
Sorry, I just couldn't resist. It's not called Dan Gray, I was thinking budgeting. That is a perennial issue in this state, right? And so back to talking about the role of mayors, we've got to do what we can within our circle of influence to keep our community affordable. And so, for instance, when the state said, we're gonna repeal the grocery tax, and municipalities have the option to opt in or out of that, I'm like, you know what? We're gonna tighten our belt. That's like a 1 or 2% difference to our budget. We should look for where we can, at least in our circle of influence here in Normal and Bloomington, to alleviate the tax burdens. I can't control what happens in Springfield. I'm on you too. I can't control. But I will tell you this, my leadership style will be to be very much connected to our state legislators. My representative is Dennis Tipsworth. I call him, he always picks up my call. I would take that relationship and I would build on it, and I would work with my counterpart in Bloomington, and we would advocate for this community together.
Thank you.
So I've already been working to deal with some of those issues, and it's not easy. I've been a part of the Illinois Municipal League, and that's part of what we do. We advocate to make sure that the impacts that are going on in Springfield does not trickle down to our communities. And I think I mentioned that earlier, and I support them. I'm trying to also fight to make sure that they don't put any unfunded mandates, because that's what the state can start to do when they're in these situations. But I do agree that we have to continue to make sure that you all are aware. You all are my first priority, and that you all have we're not putting a burden on you, but I will continue to do what I've already been doing. Now, I can't deal with the fight, meaning I can't settle it, meaning when they vote, I can't tell you when they're gonna vote or how they're gonna vote. But I can tell you, there's been a million days I've hit the pavement in Springfield to make sure that we have what we need. And one of those fights was to ask them to not burden our communities by taking away the grocery tax. They did, and we had to make some hard decisions. I'm not saying it was easy, but we couldn't go without that revenue. When they wanted to decide that they were going to start collecting on our behalf the sales tax, but then give us a surcharge when we didn't even ask for it, that's money that was coming away from you all. And we fought. I was one of the people that fought and asked representatives, and I think Representative Gray can remember us meeting in Uptown at the coffee house to talk about it. Because I said, we gotta make sure we're not being charged for that fee. And now to this day, we no longer pay the surcharge. So I will continue to do that work and fight for our communities here, so that you all don't get those burdens from the state.
Thank you both. See, I think we